right, folks, pressure is building on the governor of Tennessee, Bill Haslam, to grant clemency to Cyntoia Brown. Remember, she was a young girl, 16, when she killed the man who bought her as a sex slave from her pimp. She was forced into prostitution. Folks, of course, last week the Tennessee Supreme Court said she must serve at least 51 years in prison before the possibility of parole. All right, folks, back to our Roland Unfiltered video in just one moment. We want you to write this website down, marijuanastock.org, marijuanastock.org. And so here's why. As we transition into the holiday season, this is the time, of course, when we start thinking about giving and sharing. And sometimes the best gift can be something you give someone, which is an opportunity that can potentially change their lives. That's why our friends at Transatlantic Real Estate have created an investment opportunity for the everyday investor. It involves legal marijuana and crowdfunding. Now, we all know that legal marijuana has created one of the fastest growing industries in the nation, a multi-billion-dollar industry. We also know that crowdfunding makes it easier to be an early investor of an opportunity, but it gets easier. Transatlantic Real Estate is different. They have a business model that is simple to understand. What they're going to do is they buy land that supports marijuana grow operations and lease it to licensed high-paying tenants. Now, what that means is you're investing in the landlord of a licensed marijuana farm in a high-growth market. Now, you can invest little as $300 up to $10,000 before the company goes public. And here's the piece. They have recently extended the offer, which means you still have time if you take action now. Now, keep in mind, you must complete and confirm your application to participate, so be sure to complete the process. And look, don't spend all of your money over the holidays and end up with empty pockets. Instead, get a return on your investment. You can also consider making this an investment for someone special. To get started, go to marijuanastock.org, marijuanastock.org. If you want to get in the game, you can do it now. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video. Now, a documentary was done on her. You can see it on Netflix as well. People have been talking about her case for quite some time. Many activists, people like Rihanna and others, a group of Black Lives Matter protesters demanding clemency while the governor was speaking at an event in Nashville last night. Take a look.
Okay. What do we want? Clemency. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Clemency. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Clemency. When do we want it? Now. Clemency for Cyntoia.
Now, Governor Haslam says he is considering taking a serious look at granting clemency before his term ends and leaves office on January 19th. Now, earlier this year, in the summer, he granted clemency in a case where a woman, she actually was sentenced to 25 years in prison for killing someone. He said the stakes were different. Critics say that woman was white, this woman here is black. What's going on here? How do you explain this? Let's go to our panel right now. Dr. Julian Malveaux, economist and president emerita at Bennett College. Dr. Cleo Monago, social political analyst and activist, and also Corey Whalen, writer and consultant, first time on the show. And so if you get hazed, don't worry about it. It always happens. So let's break it down this way. And so I'll start with you, Julian. 51 years. Now, this is a woman who was a girl who was forced into human sex trafficking. She ran away from home, pimp, sells her to this guy. This guy is abusing her, sex slave. She kills him. Prosecutors say, well, she was trying to rob him before she killed him. That was the reason for her being convicted of first-degree murder. But to think that a jury could not even factor in that she was forced into slavery and that somehow is not a mitigating factor, to me is crazy.
Sex trafficking in the United States is prevalent. Roland, one of the places I just learned it was prevalent is in Northern Virginia.
Yes.
The women who are
also Maryland.
The women who are sex trafficked tend to be obviously very young, but more black and brown than anything else. They are sold, they are abused. I can't even begin to fathom what has happened to them. The fact that the prosecutor hung his case on the fact that she robbed him, well, maybe she was robbing him to buy food, because we really don't know what happens in these sex trafficking cases. But this is absurd. It is racist. It's beyond racist. It's sexist. It's disgusting. And this governor has the opportunity to weigh in on the side of justice. I don't know that he will, but I know that this is, unfortunately, all too common. And it really does speak to the disrespect and disregard of the humanity of black women and other women of color in the context of the sexual trafficking.
Corey, the state parole board, they split on this, where some said grant her clemency, others said not in this case. But still, if you're a juror, if you're on this parole board, if you're the governor, to me, at some point you have to think. I don't know somebody who's saying, sure, I want to voluntarily be a prostitute at the age of 16, and then forced into prostitution, then the pimp sells her to another guy who's an adult who is treating her as a sex slave. I don't know how you go, okay, you still got to serve your life in prison.
I mean, the whole situation is completely insane. She was a child, and she was sex trafficked. And really, I mean, can't you argue that it was a matter of self-defense? We're in a situation here where we have a young girl, she's being pimped out, and the person we're fixating on in terms of who we're prosecuting is the young girl. It seems absurd. So I think absolutely that in this case, the governor should look at it and hopefully make the right decision. It's crazy that they're focusing on her robbery, so-called robbery, and not the pimp, not the guy who literally bought this woman. The whole thing is just insane.
Cleo, first of all, she was convicted 12 years ago, 2006, sentenced to life in prison. The guy who she kills, real estate agent Johnny Allen, and somebody had asked me yesterday, whether or not the guy who she killed was white or black. Actually, he was white. And of course, it's got national attention here. But again, life in prison, and you're a sex slave?
I didn't know that he was white, so he was white.
Okay,
well, I think that's significant. I think that probably is relevant to the decision that people made. And it's interesting that the term robbed is being used because she was robbed beyond compare. I mean, she was her freedom, her capacity to be a safe human being on the planet Earth was robbed. So I think it's peculiar, but now that I see that racial dynamics is starting to make more sense to me, why this makes no sense. But it's my perspective, frankly, that women or anybody is a victim of domestic violence should be able to kill their violator and go home and go to sleep. I don't think they should do any time when they're in the throes of a person who is terrorizing them and destroying the quality of their life and their safety and their freedom. So that's my perspective. Obviously, I wasn't on the juror, but it'd be interesting to find out the gender dynamics of this jury as well. But yeah, being that she killed a white man, which is, you know,
in Tennessee,
it's contraband in this country. That's likely connected to why she got sentenced.
Julian,
the piece of this role that's important is that had they upheld the life imprisonment sentence, she would have had the opportunity to appeal. Because they reduced it from life imprisonment to 51 years, she does not now have the right to appeal, so her only recourse is the governor's clemency. So that's worth noting, is that this parole board has been very Machiavellian in their attempt to ensure that she serves a significant sentence.
Corey, I ask you this. So this is a Newsweek story. So prosecutors say Brown killed Johnny Allen, 43, in order to steal from him. She took several firearms and his pants, which contained his wallet. They also pointed to her past drug use and criminal juvenile record in an attempt to show a pattern in her life.
She was a sex slave. What do you mean a pattern in her life? Like, this man bought her. Just the way, even just hearing the way that is contextualized is just so wrong. It makes it look like she just went into this guy's house and stole from him and took his weapons, and she has a history of drug use. She also has a history of being sex trafficked. I mean, come on, just that. It's just enraging, honestly.
And so again, so Haslam, again, he leaves office on January 19th. That's when he will have to make that decision. And so the question is whether or not he will leave it up to a new governor to pick up this case.